All right, so this here is the start of the finale with Ultimate Spider-Man versus Kingpin, and it is wild. So this kicks off by saying 1 hour later, which is 1 hour later from when Otto had gave Richard Parker a device that he was supposed to insert over at Kingpin's empire. And just as a reminder here for what this device does, we have to go back to issue number 22 when Otto had said to Richard, "It took some time, a deep dive into all the records that Stain/Stark possessed, and following all those threads to their origin, you see, there's a string at the center of the world. It connects a series of nodes that all connect to the Maker's fabled city itself, an ocean of knowledge that all rivers flow to, and I've built this to infect it. A worm, a subtle self-replicating parasite that eats the tiniest portion of all that knowledge. Put this device in the right place and it will erase any existing, and more important than that, any future acquisition of information regarding your family." So naturally here, MJ is pissed, and Peter wants to know where specifically Richard has gone. And Otto, kind of playing a little coy here, he mentions, he's like, the boy has a mind of his own, that's for sure. He took the device and can only assume is now on his way to install it at Fisk Tower. And there may have been some implication of using the Hardy girl to assist him. As I'm sure you know, the security of that building is quite formidable and rather deadly. So when MJ's asking the question, she's like, "And you just let him go? Why didn't you stop him?" To which he's like, "Some parents are overly protective of who is and is not allowed to parent their child. So it wasn't really my place, was it?" Now this man know damn well that he was the one that put this whole plan in motion in the first place. So Peter's like, "All right, dude, get dressed because we're going after him." But then Otto rejects that and reminds Peter that today is the big day and that he needs to manage a signal for Uncle Ben and JJJ's reveal of the Kingpin here to the city. So Peter now has to go by himself. But before he goes, Otto mentions that it's important that the device be installed. But then here he also hands him something. Now I personally don't know exactly what this device is, but as he hands it over to Peter, he says, "You might need this." So Peter leaves and is like, "Otto, we'll talk more about this later." And of course, MJ's like, "Yeah, to be continued." And then also little May Parker, she wants to put her 2 cents into. She's like, "Otto, you should be better than you are." So in this next moment here, what we do is that we catch up on Richard Parker with Felicia, who of course he asks to help get this task done. So she takes him into the side of the building over to the 23rd floor at Fisk Tower. Now, once they are in, Felicia goes to hack the elevator. Now, for a moment here, Richard pulls out his mask and then he says to Felicia, all infatuated with her, he's like, "You're so awesome." To which Felicia then replies back, she's like, "Mask on, rookie. There's cameras everywhere." So when the elevator here gets to their location, Richard pokes his head out. And what we see here is what looks like a Mission Impossible special. To which Richard's like, "Huh? Piece of cake." And what we do next here is that we jump back to Otto, where he's now with JJJ and Uncle Ben, and it's game time now. And Otto reminds him here, he's like, "When we send the message, and as the Maker's great mechanism of control means that every broadcast device in the world is integrated, every screen will display the same thing, giving us power over that system for 3 bursts of 30 seconds. That long and no longer. After 3 times, we'll most certainly be locked out, or even worse, have our location traced. You got me?" To which JJJ and Uncle Ben, man, these dudes can never take anything seriously. JJJ is like, "Hear that? He's worried that you've overwritten this thing, Ben. You know, some people say you're indulgent with your workout." To which Uncle Ben's like, "After all these years, it does seem that I still have my doubters." So after that here, the Mole Man decides to join the party, bringing along some whiskey at that too. So when Ben asks a question though, he's like, "Are you here for the show?" to Mole Man. Mole Man gives us this insightful view here on his life. He's like, "Some men, they bury their sins deep in the earth, thinking that they will never resurface, gone and forgotten. I tell you truly, they are still there, waiting for you to join them in the dirt, or for them to be dug up and send you to your grave. Yes, I am here for the show." And just like that, as Spider-Man is on his way to see the Kingpin, Kingpin's dirty laundry is being broadcasted here to the entire city. And it starts off by saying, "This is Wilson Fisk, Over the past year, it's been revealed that he is also known as the Kingpin of New York. It's a name that he's earned, installed as the strong right hand of those who truly run this world. He wasn't chosen by you. He wasn't elected to office. He simply rules. But then as the Kingpin is listening to all this here, he gets interrupted. And when he turns around, who does he see? He sees Martin Lee. To which naturally Kingpin's like, what are you doing here? To which Martin Lee's like, I came to see you actually. I thought it was long past time that we have a private conversation. So Kingpin's like, I can see that you have something on your mind. I'm just not sure that this is the best time here for it. To which Lee's like, well, I'm afraid that the time is now. It's not that the matter is urgent necessarily, but it is inevitable. To which Kingpin's like, all right, man, always such appetite. These men who want power. I understand it well. I am going to break you, he says to Martin Lee. Not because you deserve it, though I'm sure that you do, but because all this makes me want to hurt something. So it's here where Lee pulls out his sword. And then Kingpin says this, he's like, I'm curious how you got through all my bullseyes without them alerting me. Did you bend their minds to make them yours? To which Lee's like, I would have, but there was no one there. It seems that all your men had somewhere else to be. So then, right on cue, we see where those bullseyes were. We pick up on them here right outside of this door with guns pointed directly here at Harry and the legions of Mysterio, which, bruh, like they look creepy as heck still. Now, after the explosion here that was supposed to kill all the Mysterios, they decided to all join here as one. I'm assuming due to the amulet, they used that to do this. And all of them are always talking all at once. They start off by saying to Harry, they're like, move them for us, move them for us, move them for us. And then last, here's Gwen, move them for me. To which Harry's like, sure, no problem. This ain't creepy at all. But then this encounter stops here because there's a voice that comes out that says, stop, let them through. And as Legion Mysterio is walking down the path with Harry here, Harry's like, man, this somehow seems worse. So then we jump back here to Lee and Kingpin, to which Lee's like, you must be getting used to it by now, everyone abandoning you. Then again, that's a convenient lie that spares you the real truth, isn't it? So Kingpin's like, you gotta be kidding me with this crap, right? He's like, are you trying to make me angry, provoke a reaction? If so, it's gonna take something more than we are born alone and we die alone. So then Lee's like, all right, let's just go straight on the attack. And he's like, of course, but betrayal is a good step beyond rejection. And as they're here face to face, Lee's like, haven't you wondered whatever happened to Mr. Wellesley? Where did your most trusted man disappear to? Or was he really ever here at all? So then Kingpin's like, if you killed him, if it was you, I'm going to enjoy this more than I thought I was. To which Lee's like, yeah, not likely. Not once you find out that, but then they get interrupted. This alarm goes off. And that's when we're jolted here to then see Richard and Felicia trying to get past these lasers. But Richard can feel that something's going on, that something happened. And what that does is that kind of throws Richard off of his game, because what happens next here is that one of those lasers, well, that touches Richard's foot. So then now this node, it starts to alarm and go off as well. And the bad part about that is that now Kingpin and Lee can see it directly here on screen. So initially when Kingpin sees this, he's like, there are intruders at the node, to which Lee's like, node, like, what is this? So then Kingpin, he starts quoting this. He's like, do what you will with the city, but know that your dominion exists at the pleasure of the maker, which most likely is what Captain Britain had told Kingpin. So when Kingpin continues, he's like, if there is one rule that we live by, it's this: be a solid foundation on which his empire stands. But Lee's like, bro, forget all that noise. He just thinks that Kingpin is trying to distract him, to which Kingpin's like, no, this is more than this. But then once again, they get cut off because here comes a Spider-Man breaking through the glass. Spider-Man, Spider-Man. All right, I'm done. So then, of course, Peter comes in and naturally here is starting to go off on one of his quips, but it throws him off his game a little bit because he's like, normally I'll have something hilarious to say, but I didn't prepare any jokes where the punchline was for 2 bleeps. And then he follows up by saying, wait, actually, I do have something. How many bleeps does it take to? But then he also sees Richard and Felicia on the screen. So now Lee, this man just wants to let everybody's secrets out. So he says this, he's like, your timing couldn't be more perfect, Mr. Parker. You're just in time to watch some truly awful things happen to you and yours. To which Kingpin's like, yo, how exactly do you know this dude's name, right? To which Lee is like, James Wesley. He told me everything that he had learned in his secret life as Mysterio. To which, of course, Kingpin's like, what? But then also Peter doesn't know this information either. So he's like, what? So then Lee's like, you know what? Let me share some more information here. He's like, yes. So I know all your secrets, Kingpin, and I know all of yours, Peter Parker. Like, I'm sure it's your uncle behind that Kingpin story that was on every screen earlier. To which technically, you know, Kingpin does know that it's Ben and JJJ that would most likely be behind this, but he didn't know that that was Peter Parker's uncle. Shoot, he didn't even know that this was Peter Parker. But then Lee divulges some more information here. He's like, and like I know that's your son Richard down in the vault. So now Kingpin knows that too. And the irony here is so funny, right? Otto sends Richard to make sure that they can delete some information so that no one will ever know about the family. But now Kingpin knows everything about the family. So then in this moment here, Spider-Man is like, don't worry about him, worry about me. So what happens next here is that Lee, he starts to walk out, and Kingpin says to him, he's like, until I fall, this is my city and all of it is my concern. Truce until we deal with these other problems. And Lee responds back and it's like, yes, truce. You deal with this and I'm in the mood to end a bloodline. And man didn't know what he just said, because it's in that moment here where Peter Parker is like, you're gonna wish you didn't say that. So Spider-Man, he throws out his webs, he grabs Lee and then pulls him in and then clocks him straight in the face. And then he starts going to town here on Mr. Negative. But then he stopped because the Kingpin comes in and then he grabs his hand and then he picks up Spider-Man and then he throws him directly into the wall. When we pan back over here to Richard and Felicia, Felicia's like, oh shoot, like this is bad. To which Richard's like, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. But then here, Felicia, she spots something on the door. She's like, I think that's a safety switch here by the vault door. She's like, can you get me over there and buy me a couple minutes to access it? To which Richard's like, yeah, I think so. But then what happens here is that the Pico suit starts talking to Richard and it's like, yo, we got a small problem here. The defenses here are made of the same stuff that I am. It's extremely complex and highly adaptable. And it's here where that begins to start wrapping up. There's these tentacles that come out that starts to wrap up here Felicia and stops her from getting over to that switch. And Richard is in panic mode right now. He's like, Felicia! And then back over here in the fight between Spider-Man and Kingpin, Kingpin's like, didn't you learn your lesson the last time that you came here? How badly do you have to be beaten to understand? To which Spider-Man's like, you caught me on a bad day, Fisk. At my beginning, I know what I'm doing now. To which Kingpin's like, you had help then. Now you're here alone. To which Peter's like I said, now I know what I'm doing. And he goes over and then catches Kingpin right in the face as well. But then this variable here that Spider-Man wasn't accounted for is Martin Lee, because it's here where Martin Lee says, if you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't have come here. And then he starts saying, don't fight, don't fight, don't fight. And what that does here is that stops Peter in his tracks. And Peter, he's been in an encounter here with Mr. Negative before. This happened back in issue number 11 here, when he was trying to save, or I should say where he successfully did save these civilians at a bank that were being robbed here, or the bank was being robbed here by Martin Lee's people. But what Peter definitely didn't remember is that Lee controlled those people to attack a Spider-Man. So the reason why I really bring that up is that just to kind of remind you that this Ultimate Spider-Man here is still so inexperienced in comparison to the 616 Spider-Man, right? Because he would have been prepared for this in somewhat which of a way. But what that does now is that turns the tides here as it pertains to Kingpin versus Spider-Man, because now Kingpin is going to town here on Spider-Man. Wham! And right here, what Spider-Man is trying to do, he's trying to call out to Harry. He's trying to call out to that help. He's like, Harry, Harry, are you there? But when we pan over here to where Harry is, what we see is that now Mysterio and Harry are right in front here of Henry Duggery, Captain Britain of the Makers Council. And what happens here, like, Harry was not prepared for this. I was not prepared for this, because what Henry Duggery says, he's like, I have to say, when you reached out to me, my curiosity was barely piqued. But now that I'm here, now that I've surveyed what's become of my territory, I have to say, I am more interested in how you might run things, Miss Mysterio. So Harry's like, the F is going on here? To which Mysterios are like, we have many plans. And it's here where Harry hears on comms, he hears Peter calling in for him. He hears his request here for help. But what's interesting here is that Norman starts talking, the AI Norman starts talking here to Harry, and he's like, fascinating, isn't it? How are you ignored so often and then pulled all at once? So what's it gonna be here, son? Will you stand by 1/5 of a wife? Which, oh my gosh, like that line is crazy. Or will you run off to save a better man than you'll ever be? I'm like, well, when you put it like that, what choice did you expect Harry to make, right? So Norman continues on, he's like, where does your loyalty lie? Do you have any agency at all? Or are you just a thing to be pulled to and fro? So in this moment here, what Harry does, he's like, yo, I'm sorry, Pete, and just leaves a Spider-Man there by himself. So as another punch here comes in from Kingpin, Spider-Man is able to catch it. But then remember, Lee's still there. He's like, no fighting back, remember? So what happens next here is that Kingpin is able to come through with a whack and then knock Spider-Man back. And Lee says again, he's like, don't fight. But remember, JJJ and Uncle Ben and Otto, they still got something going on here, and they're not ready for the second signal. So it's here where they send out another broadcast again. And this one starts off by saying, make no mistake, the Kingpin is not rich. He is not famous. He is not influential. No, he is power. He decides what kind of life you are allowed to have, as this is what they do. Rule, and we are expected to take it. And listen, as he says take it, Spider-Man is taking it straight to the jaw here. And the broadcast continues. They feed you a fake idea of life. They feed you and then laugh as you choke on it. And it's here where Kingpin is going in town again. Wham, wham on Peter. And when he's done, he stands up. He looks at Peter, broken, like Peter looks done. And he's like, it's done. He's finished. And here, Martin Lee, and I'm not gonna lie to you, this line right here is cold. He's like, such grand plans, such broad ambition to topple kings and seed hope for the hopeless. Such a hero. I expected more. Yo, that line is cold. So then Kingpin here next, he's like, take the lesson for what it is. The rabble always talk about revolution until the blood comes out, and then all they do is bleed. So next here, Lee says, he's like, I'll take care of the son. You finish up here. But Peter, this man, he got the heart of a fighter here. He says, no, I can do this all day. No, I'm kidding. He doesn't say that. He says, this isn't over. I'm just getting started. And based on what looked like some broken fingers and probably a few broken ribs, I don't know how much Peter got left. So what do you think here? I thought this was a good first part to a conclusion. I'm wondering though how they're going to be able to tie up all these sort of like plot points that they just introduced here in this particular issue. Also, what exactly is that device that Otto gave to Peter? Like, I'm really curious to see what that is. Leave your theories down below. Don't forget also as well to leave a like here on this video for the YouTube algorithm. Subscribe if you're brand new to the channel. Join our Discord. The link for that is going to be down below in the description. Also a link to where you can check out our Keepin' It Comic website, which is one way where you can actually support the channel by purchasing our merch and other items that are there as well. We appreciate you watching. And as always, thank you so much for kicking it with Keepin' It Comic. Bye.